Sunday afternoon baseball. From Shea Stadium in New York, the San Francisco Giants against the New York Mets. Roger Craig turning things around for the Giants. The new manager has his team in third place, 3 games back. Today, they'll face the Mets right-hander Ron Darling, who will try to up his mark to 7-0 before a sellout crowd. It is Cap Day at Shea Stadium in New York. Every seat has been sold, so they should have an excess of 50,000 on a very hot and very humid day with a temperature approaching 90 degrees and the threat of rain later on. But the crowd has gathered to watch the Giants and Mets wrap up a 3-game series. The Mets winning 8-7 on Friday night, and then the Giants coming back to snap the Mets' 6-game winning streak last night as they beat New York by a score of 7-3. I'm Al Michaels, and it's not often that we have had the San Francisco Giants on either a Monday night or a Sunday afternoon telecast in recent times. The reason has been simple. The Giants have rarely been in the race, and it's surprising that they're on this late in the season this year because the Giants lost 100 games in 1985 for the first time in the history of the franchise and did not figure to turn things around very quickly. But Roger Craig has them on the right track right now, 2 over 500 and 3 games behind in the National League West as we turn the calendar to June. Meanwhile, the Mets are rolling. They have done as much as you can expect for a team 7 weeks into the season with a mark of 31-12, and they have all but put away 4 teams, including the St. Louis Cardinals in the National League Eastern Division. The Mets are in very good shape, even though we're still extremely early in the season. Let me turn now to Jim Palmer. Let's talk about today's Mets starting pitcher, Ron Darling, and his relationship with his manager, Dave Johnson. What do we have here? Weaver Palmer of the 80s?
Well, they did have a conflict. Ron is 6-0 in the year. He's going for the first time to try to be a Met to start off the season, winning 7 consecutive starts, or at least be 7-0 at some point in the season. What Davey Johnson, the manager of the Mets, didn't like about Ron's performance before his last one was basically he got a big lead early. He didn't walk too many guys, but he went 3-2. He wasn't challenging the hitters. And one of the writers came in, and he was very honest, and he said, I just didn't think he was very good that night. His last performance, though, 12 strikeouts against the Dodgers, 8 on third called strikes. A little bit more what Davey Johnson likes. I said, Davey, of course, you will take the fact that you guys are not getting along that well if he goes undefeated all year. And Davey said, of course.
He faces today the San Francisco Giants, a team like the Houston Astros in the National League West and the Texas Rangers in the American League West, who have really turned it around. How have the Giants done it, in your opinion?
Well, they've done it with offense. Their pitching was very good last year. They didn't have a great defense, but they weren't the worst in the National League. But they were right in the middle of the pack with pitching last year. And if you look at their records, they're really not as indicative as well as they pitched. This year, of course, I mean, they dropped 23 points between 84 and 85 in batting averages. This year, they're averaging almost 5 runs a ball game. If you go out there as a pitcher, and Mike Krukow is one of the great pitchers on their staff, it gives him a good game just about every time out. He knows if he goes out and does his job, he's going to be in the game. They can score runs this year. And I think the number one thing when you talk to all their players is they have a much better attitude. They're coming to the ballpark this year knowing they can win.
That's what Roger Craig has accomplished to this point. So we'll see the Giants taking on the Mets at Shea Stadium in New York before a sellout crowd. Krukow taking on Darling. We'll be back.
ABC's Sunday Afternoon Baseball is being brought to you by Budweiser. Beechwood Age for that clean, crisp taste. This Bud's for you. By Chevrolet, who invites you to drive today, Chevy. Live today, Chevy. By Amarol. It's the finishing touch every time you wash your car. And by IBM and its family of personal printers for the finishing touch.
Will lead things off, Gladden in center field. Then the rookie Will Clark at first base with Bob Brenly doing the catching. Jeffrey Leonard is the left fielder, having a good year. Chili Davis is in right, the switch hitter. Luis Quinones recently called up, the third baseman. Rookie Robbie Thompson bats 7th at second. Jose Uribe, the second-year shortstop, and the pitcher right-hander Mike Krukow. Extremely warm and very humid at Shea Stadium as the Mets have taken the field, and defensively the outfield of Mookie Wilson in left and Len Dykstra in center with Danny Heap in right. Both Foster and Strawberry are out of the lineup today. Knight at third. Howard Johnson is the shortstop. Hot Wally Backman is at second and Hernandez at first. Ed Hearn catches as Gary Carter gets a rest, and Ron Darling is the pitcher. So in effect, the Mets, also without Santana in the starting lineup, are going without 4 regulars. There is Roger Craig, not only the manager of the Giants, but as any of you who have followed the Mets through their long and storied history know, he was one of the original Mets and the starting pitcher in the first ever game played by the Mets on April 11th, 1962 in St. Louis. And wouldn't you know it, that was a makeup game because the Mets were scheduled to have played the day before but were rained out in Missouri. And then Roger Craig took the mound the next day, went 3 innings, gave up 5 runs, and of course was the losing pitcher. He would go on to lose 24 games in one season as a member of the New York Mets. That was in 1962. And then he improved the following year when he only lost 22. He was a good pitcher on a bad ball club because he had some fine years with the Dodgers prior to his stint with the Mets. So Craig throwing out a ceremonial first pitch today, this year marking the 25th anniversary of the New York Mets, and a year in which the Mets hope they'll wind up in the World Series, and they are certainly on their way to winding up in postseason play the way things have been going. They're a team that has played fewer home games than any team in the National League, and yet they have by far the best record. They're 19 over 500 on the 1st of June. Dan Gladden is the batter, and we're underway. 0-1 the count with Clark and Brenly on deck. Gladden with good speed and hitting .318 on the road. Darling unbeaten. And a good hits to innings pitched ratio right there.
That's the one thing that you have to deal with, and you're talking about Ron Darling. He occasionally has some wildness problems. But an excellent fastball, well in the 90 miles per hour, a big, slow, sweeping curveball. And really the pitch, I think, is make the difference for him. And you go back and you talk to the people that watched the last game, which was quite a 12 strikeout effort. The split-finger fastball, in fact, the opposing manager, Roger Craig, has not only taught it to most pitchers in the league, but helped Ron Darling with it, has been one of his most effective pitchers.
Crowd wants a strikeout, and instead they get a base hit off the bat of Gladden on an 0-2 pitch. So Gladden is on. Gladden has speed, but his success rate is not very good. He has 9 steals, but he's been caught 7 times.
Well, 0-2. Darling tries to make a good pitch with his fastball away. Gladden doing what he does best, something he didn't do last year when he slumped at 350 his first year, went right with it. Type of pitch, if you try to pull, you hit a 3-hopper to shortstop. Pitcher with good velocity, you just go with him. Hit the ball right on the nose, right by the diving Wally Backman.
Here's Clark. Gladden goes, and it's grounded to second, and Backman has only 1 play. So they stay out of the force. Ball probably hit too slowly for a double play to begin with, and at least are able to get the runner to second base as Gladden is there with 1 out.
Well, it looks like almost it definitely is a hit and run. You see him slow, possibly to get in Wally Backman's way. But this is something that Roger Craig has done. We talked about the lack of offense last year, finishing last in the National League, not only in batting averages, but in runs scored. This year, they call it kind of like the Roadrunner team, where not only do they have some guys like Bob Bremley, who we see right here, that can hit the ball out of the ballpark, along with Chili Davis and Chris Brown, who is not playing today, but they are a very aggressive team, hitting and running, trying to move the runners along. Right there, what they attempted to do with that hit and run is to hope that Backman would be covering on the play, and he would vacate the hole, and you possibly have a first and third situation.
So Roger Craig watching as Gladden is at second base and 1 out, and it's 0-1 on the versatile Brenly. who's catching today. He can also play third as he did last night, and he tries to bunt his way on and misses for strike 2. And he can also play first. Jim mentioning that Chris Brown, the third baseman, who's off to a very hot start, is again out of the lineup. He has missed this whole series with a hamstring or a groin pull, actually, and the Giants are hopeful that he'll be back in the lineup on Tuesday. As the Shea crowds are prone to do with 2 strikes, the rhythmic hand clapping starts in hopeful anticipation of a strikeout. Grounded to short. Gladden started toward third, has to slide back into second as Brentley is thrown out by Johnson. So 2 down. Howard Johnson spelling Santana at short today. Foster out of the lineup against the right-hander. Strawberry bothered by a thumb injury, and Carter gets a day off. So as we stated earlier, the Mets in effect without 4 regulars.
Well, it's an interesting thing about the split-fingered fastball. Darling started throwing that really in the middle of last year. Every year he's been in the major leagues. First year he was 12-9. Last year 16-6. This year off to his best start at 6-0. What the split-finger fastball makes it difficult for the hitter to pick up is because it acts a lot like a forkball, where it has a kind of a rotation that makes it drop, but you don't pick up the rotation. That's the difference between the forkball and the split-finger fastball.
Jeffrey Leonard swinging and missing, and the count is 0-1. Leonard is hitting .358 with runners in scoring position, and he's hitting .435 this season against the Mets.
At one point he'd been up 16 times and had 10 hits. Maybe it was 10 for 15. Very aggressive hitter. They call his nickname's the Hack Man.
And also penitentiary face. And he requested the change this year from Jeff to Jeffrey. And that provoked somebody to say, does he want it now changed to correctional facility face? Outside, and the count 1-1. In any event, Roger Craig's been wearing a happy face every time Leonard stands in.
It's funny how hitters, and this is a perfect example how the hitter, as he matures, becomes stronger. Great size, around 6'3", 200 pounds, a kind of a Don Baylor type of build. You know, when I played with Don in Baltimore, everybody said he had the ideal build for baseball. Break up double plays, could hit the ball with power. Played a whole season in the Astrodome, which is a much bigger ballpark. A little bit smaller now, but they moved the fences in. Hit .290, 47 RBIs without any home runs. Now you'd consider him a home run hitter, somewhere hits right around 19, 20, 21 home runs a year.
And maybe the key man offensively for the Giants.
Well, again, we go back to talking how a team can go from hitting .266 to .233 in 1 year, or .265 to .233, and I said, is it the presence that you felt that Jack Clark gave to your lineup, and then he was, of course, in San Francisco.
In the air to right field, and backing up is Heath, and he drops the ball. He had gotten there, and the Giants take the lead as Gladden comes in to score. Danny Heath fading on it and got there, and should be charged with an error, as Leonard winds up at second, and San Francisco leads 1-0.
Well, the ball off the bat, if you're playing left and right, and Heath usually plays left, you react differently. This ball slices away from him, does not have the speed of a Darryl Strawberry. Looks like he's fighting his son a little bit, hits him right, kind of in the heel of the glove instead of the pocket. And that's the difference between him making the play or not. It's one of those plays where, again, defense is so much part of pitching. He makes the play, the inning's over, and you get a chance to bat. As it is, 1 run in with a potential another run on second base.
Philly Davis takes outside for a ball, and the count is 1-0. Davis loves to hit against the Mets in particular, loves to hit against Dwight Gooden, whom the Giants avoided in this series. Philly batting .579 this season. He's 11 for 19 against New York pitching. And the count 2 balls and no strikes. Heath looked like he was fighting the sun a bit, as you say, Jim. And
but also
it's
the ball,
it's a very hazy sky today.
The difference if a right-hander hits the ball and you're playing left field, and usually Danny Heath plays and has been platooning with George Foster, with Strawberry in right and either Dykstra or Wilson in center. The ball off the right-handed bat, when you're playing right, slices away from you, and the ball down the left field line, as we see the intentional walk here, playing percentage baseball. will hook the other way. So it's a little bit difficult to go from one field to the other, but the ball should have been caught.
Davy Johnson, who doesn't issue very many intentional walks, does so here, and in a pretty obvious situation when you think about it. They were 2-0 with Davis, who loves to hit against the Mets, first base open, and the rookie, Luis Quinones, at the plate. Quinones is in the lineup because of the injury to Chris Brown. So with 2 on and 2 out, Quinones goes after the first pitch, and it's a fly ball to Mookie Wilson, who's making his 3rd career start in left field to retire the side. An unearned run ahead, each error, and 2 left after a half. It's the Giants 1 and the Mets coming up. Field, and then Wally Backman hitting .349 at second. Keith Hernandez, steady as always, bats 3rd. Ray Knight is in the cleanup spot today, and Mookie Wilson is in the 5 spot in left. Then there's Danny Heath batting 6th. Howard Johnson, the shortstop, hits 7th. With Carter out today, being rested, Ed Hearn is the catcher, and there is Ron Darling. The Giants on top, 1-0, going to the bottom of the 1st inning. The outfield of Leonard, Gladden, and Davis. Then the very young infield of Quinones, Uribe, Thompson, and Clark, with Brenly catching, and the veteran Krukow on the mound. Now the Giants have had trouble in the 1st inning of late when they've been out in the field. In their last 10 games, the Giants have yielded 21 first-inning runs, better than 2 a game, and the Mets have scored 44 runs in their 43 games in the 1st inning, and that's tops in the majors. The pitch is strike and the count 0-1. So let's see about Krukow and trying to protect the 1-0 lead in the 1st inning.
As I said many times, it's the type of inning where a lot of times you have to acclimate yourself as a pitcher to the mound. You come in, the mound and the bullpen's a little bit differently. I always had a philosophy that I wanted to go with what my strengths were, not only in the 1st inning, but most of the ball game.
Dykstra hits it near the trademark, but it hangs for the right fielder Davis, and there's 1 away. 1 gone in the 1st inning, and Backman is the batter, and you saw Ron Darling getting fouled off, and it's that kind of day. Darling getting fouled off after a half inning. They're sold out on Cap Day, and the thermometer up near the 90 mark.
Almost seems like spring forgot to come to the east this year.
Wally Backman, switch hitter. He's hitting .377 against right-handers. And he takes a strike, and he very rarely now faces left-handed pitching, especially since they picked up Tim Tuffle in the offseason. Tuffle playing on almost every occasion when the Mets face a left-handed pitcher.
Well, it's a good situation for the Mets, because Backman is the better of the defensive second basemen they have when you're talking about Tuffle and Wally, as we look at Wally right now. So even when he does not play against left-handers, a lot of times you will see him in the ballgame late for defense. Turns a double play very well. A typical player that gets most out of his ability. If you talk to the batting coach, Bill Robinson, when he hits a fly ball, normally they catch it because most of his fly balls stay in the ballpark. They like to have him hit the ball on the ground. That and line drives. Makes him a much better effective hitter.
Line foul into and then out of the Giants dugout. And it's still a ball and 2 strikes.
That kind of keeps you awake. The reason Mike Krukow is so effective is he has a great slow curveball, but he also can spot his fastball. Came up with a split-fingered, really what we call a changeup. Looks like a fastball, but it's a lot less speed. So you look at the curveball just missing inside.
Don't get the appeal from Dana Debus, the third base umpire, and the count is 2-2.
That's basically the book on Wally Backman as he holds up. Again, if the bat head goes out in front of home plate, the judgment of the umpire, that would have been strike 3. The book on Wally Backman is he's a much better fastball hitter, and we've seen Krukow go to basically trying to get him out with curveballs.
Lifted to left. Leonard, 2 down. So Dykstra and Backman are gone, and you can sense that the outfielders are having some trouble with the sun today. With the Giants ahead 1-0 and 2 down, Keith Hernandez .339 and leading the league in on-base percentage. He's been on base 42% of the time. His OB percentage, .423. Hit .363 during the month of May. In the lineup every day.
He's also hitting 40 of the 43 games he's playing. So you're looking at one of the most consistent hitters, not only on the Mets, obviously, but in baseball. We talked about this 2 weekends ago, and we were out playing the Dodgers in Los Angeles. And I think the reason that you're able to hit over 300 consistently is that every bat is taken totally seriously. There isn't that loss of concentration.
Strike. Hit a home run against Krukow when the Mets were in San Francisco a week and a half back, and then Krukow retired the next 23 batters in succession. Krukow enjoying good success in his career against New York. He's 14-6 with the Mets, and at Shea Stadium he is 8-3 lifetime.
Well, one of his losses, of course, last year was against Ron Darling. Gave up only 1 earned run, but lost the ball game. Went all 9 innings. He led the Giant staff with 6 complete games last year.
Hernandez fouling it off, and it stays 0-2.
Reminds me a lot of the veteran pitcher who's very close to the 300 mark, Don Sutton. He's a little bit taller at 6'4", 205 pounds, but he's over the top. He has an excellent curveball. He takes a little bit off on his changeup. He's not really overpowering, but he's sneaky. Like he just snuck that fastball by Hernandez because he throws the ball a couple different speeds.
Breaking pitch, and it's still 0-2.
Really, Al, the key for him to be effective is that big curveball we just saw. When he gets that over, the hitters cannot sit on the fastball. When he's not getting that over, the counts are constantly 1-0, 2-0, 3-1. He better make awfully good pitches with his fastball or he's going to be in trouble.
Krukow checking out a departing DC-10. Shea Stadium located about a mile from the runway at LaGuardia Airport, and it's a common sound here. But that's not a common sight. Hernandez striking out on a breaking pitch low and in. So Krukow sets them down in order, and at the end of 1-0 Giants.
We ask America
about the relationship between Davey Johnson and his pitcher, Ron Darling. Here's the assessment of the Mets manager.
Well, Ronnie and I have a good relationship. It's not a Palmer or Weaver feud. He's an outstanding pitcher. Sometimes I voice a little displeasure at the fact that he nibbles too much or gets behind hitters, but when he goes after the hitters and gets everything over, he's just outstanding.
What do you say to him between starts?
We're not talking. Not really. I don't have to say much to any of my pitchers between starts. They have certain work habits, and the only time I talk to them is if I think their thinking's getting a little off base.
Darling facing the Giants rookie second baseman Robbie Thompson, and he falls behind 2 balls and no strikes. Thompson, Uribe, and Krukow, and it's in there for a strike. All things considered, as you look at some impressive numbers put up by Thompson making his big league debut in '86. Darling is 12-1 since last August. And as you can see at the start of the season, Selma, Seaver, Matlack, Tom Gorman of all people in '84. And now Darling 6-0, but Thompson starts things with a walk here in the second inning. As Jim said, Darling is prone to wildness. In fact, he led the National League in walks allowed last year with 114.
That's the most since J.R. Richards back in 1978. But again, that could be a lack of maturity. I kind of maybe visualize a lot what Davey Johnson sees in Ron Darling as Earl Weaver saw in me, which is basically he has such great God-given ability that he does not like to see him walk batters, and he has an excellent picked off 7 batters last year. Great move, great athlete. 13 hits last year behind Gooden's 21, which led all Mets pitchers, I think all pitchers in the major league. So he can do a lot of things to win ball games. And that's how you are 12-9, 16-6, and now 6-0. But the most frustrating thing for a manager is to sit on the bench And as we see one of his better moves, as many pitchers will do, they'll kind of give you the lackadaisical move, and maybe you hope you'll take a half a step off and then give you the good move and pick you off. He does a lot of things right, but what happens is that you don't like to see your pitchers walk batters because you don't take advantage of the defensive players playing behind you.
And he has started the second inning by throwing 5 out of the strike zone, and he's 1-0 with Jose Uribe. Giants on top, 1-0 in the second inning. In there, Uribe, the 26-year-old Dominican shortstop, who came up with the Cardinals and then went to San Francisco in the Jack Clark trade. Playing on an everyday basis last year, hit .237. This year at .260, and he's been relatively productive in the 8th spot as Darling again fires to first. Uribe has 20 runs batted in, and is tied for third on the club, behind Davis and Leonard, the two men you expect to drive in runs.
Well, when you talk about Jose, you're talking about a contact hitter, which is what they want him to do, get the bat on the ball. And in this situation, Thompson, who stole 28 bases at the AA level last year, can run.
Uribe lifts it softly to shallow center field, and Dykstra comes charging in with Wilson, and Dykstra drops the ball and goes down in a heap after a collision with Johnson, and there are runners at first and second. So you had Johnson, who hasn't played in several days, in agony at shortstop going out. Dykstra playing center field today, and Wilson, who normally plays center, coming over from left. And Dykstra can't hold it, and Johnson still in agony. Dykstra also going down initially, but it's Johnson who is the most severely shaken up. A soft fly ball to center field. Dykstra playing relatively deep and not really reading it that well. Got a late start, and then Wilson came over on the angle with Johnson going all the way out, knowing that Dykstra had a long way to go.
Exactly, and that's what complicates this play. Not Howard Johnson or Dykstra or even Wilson know whether they can catch this ball, so they're going full tilt right there. Dykstra realizes he can catch it, but it's too late for Johnson to get out of the way. The whole key is to communicate. Unfortunately, sometimes you hate to call for a ball too early when you might not be able to get there.
And it's also compounded by the fact there was a jet that was departing, and you could still hear it. And the volume was loud enough so that I'm sure you don't have audio clarity in the outfield, especially under these circumstances, where, as you say, you can't even make the call until it's almost too late.
The nature of that play is the infielder goes back, anticipating trying to make the play until he's called off by the outfielder. But because of the shortness and difficulty of that particular catch, I'm sure Lenny Dykstra wasn't able to really ascertain whether he's going to get to the ball or not. And in retrospect, when you look at the replay, he got there in plenty of time, but not in time to see Howard Johnson, who's shaking off, looks like a bruised wrist, not to mention maybe a thigh or whatever, giving him a chance to get out of the way.
So Johnson still needing some time to recover with runners at first and second. And nobody out, of the pitcher, Mike Krukow, coming up here in the second inning. Dykstra, sensing the collision, may have lost control of it even before the collision, and he does as you look at it in the replay.
He's been watching Sports Center, and of course 2 weeks ago, if you watched the Angels play 2 times in 1 week, Brian Downing and Gary Pettis collided. Fortunately, nobody was hurt in those instances. It's really one of the most difficult plays in baseball, only because of the unknown factor. You just don't know who's going to get to the ball.
Johnson has seen enough, that is, Davey has seen enough of Howard as he attempts to warm up, and he knows that he can't make it, and so the call goes out to the dugout. And the Mets will need a new shortstop, and that means Rafael Santana, who thought he was going to get at least a good part of the day off when he wasn't in the starting lineup, will have to take over. So Santana comes in to play shortstop, and he will hit in the number 7 spot. Howard Johnson, still feeling the effects of the collision, has to come out in the second inning with the Giants on top by a score of 1-0. And greeted by the former shortstop, now the third base coach Bud Harrelson. So Krukow waiting patiently now. And he's a good hitting pitcher, but he comes up in a situation where almost surely he'll bunt. First and second and nobody out. Meanwhile, since 1900, after a 100-loss season, there are the three teams with the best records. The Phillies 8 games over through 48 way back in 05. The Cubs then in 63, and now the Giants at 25-23, coming off a year in which, for the first time in the history of the franchise, they reached triple figures in losses. Gordy McKenzie goes through the signs from third as Krukow now stands in. Nobody out. The Giants have Robbie Thompson at second base and Jose Uribe at first. San Francisco ahead 1-0.
You said a pretty good hitter, even though he will be bunting.
And a good bunt, and Darling can't handle it, and the bases are loaded.
Well, again, this is a play of communication. Initially, you have to call whether you think you're going to make the play or not. I would assume that Ron Darling said, I have it, I have it. The ball is bunted extremely hard. As you see Ray Knight take that one step in and then one back, and Darling just doesn't get to the ball.
Uribe's fly ball was scored a base hit, but that is scored an error. An error is charged to Darling, the Mets second, and so Thompson is at third. Uribe is now at second. And Krukow at first, with nobody out on the top of the order. Dan Gladden at the plate. Gladden singled on an 0-2 pitch in the first inning. That's infield at double play depth. And now Knight comes up to the edge of the grass at third. Outside, ball one. The line and up at the edge of the grass.
Well-built, compact hitter. Came up 2 years ago, hit over 350. The last part of the season last year started off very well, played very well in September and October, but struggled in between. And I was talking to Jose Morales, who is the new batting coach, and he said the one thing he has a tendency of doing is overswinging. He's a little guy, should be a contact hitter, should take the walks. That's what they want from the leadoff batter. Yet sometimes he goes up there swinging for home runs.
Darling misses away in the count, 2 balls and 1 strike.
Of course,
so Stottlemyre in the foreground and Johnson in the rear, looking on with some concern here in the second inning.
Well, they're concerned because you're looking at a big inning, and it's similar to what happened last night. Bob Ojeda, in one of his few poor outings of the year, had the Mets out of the ball game very early in the game, and certainly don't want to see that happen again. Give him a run here, but try to get out of the inning with maybe only 1 run scored.
Now he's 3-1. Bases loaded and nobody out in the second inning. The Giants with a chance to break it open early. Lead 1-0.
This is a perfect example of knowing the abilities of your players. A lot of managers might say, well, let's let him take the bat out of his hand, because he might swing at a ball.
3-1, he reaches out and fouls it off, and it's 3-2.
But if you know your player and he's willing to take a walk, you really set up a big inning.
Full count. Crowd wishful of a strikeout, and that's not a bad idea for Darling right here if he can get one. Instead, it's grounded sharply by Santana for a base hit. Thompson scores. Uribe scores. Krukow stops at second, and San Francisco leads 3-0 in the second inning as Gladden is 2 for 2.
Well, 2 times he's gotten fastballs that hit. 0-2 one time, 3-2, bases loaded. You throw it right down the middle. A little bit in on him. But most good hitters, especially contact hitters, try to drive the ball up the middle. And that ball was up in the strike zone, and Dan Gladden did exactly that. Hit it right back where nobody was playing.
Now Will Clark who was the top college player in the United States in 1985, a great collegiate career at Mississippi State, a 1984 Olympian, and a good-looking rookie with a very sweet swing, taking low, ball one. But he's been slumping. Clark had a great April, hit a home run in his first official at-bat in Houston on opening night, but then hit only .219 in the month of May, or .221, as reflected there. Inside, 2-0 the count.
Again, Ron Darling trying to make the pitch that he wants to make and unable to do that. I talked to Will Clark about this slump. He was 3 for 24 as we see Mel Stottlemyre, the pitching coach for the Mets, going out to talk to Ed Hearn and Ron Darling. And Will said the one thing great about Roger Craig is that he doesn't overreact. If you're 3 for 24, he said, hey, how about a couple of days off? Maybe you can kind of get your mind straightened out as we look at Roger there. You know, there's no reason to panic. You're not out of the lineup for anything more than a rest. And he said he came back and he's had 3 hits in the last couple of days. So it's nice to have a good young player like Will Clark, but it's also nice to have a manager that's going to be patient. The kind of manager you need with a young ball club.
Darling misses away, and now he is 3-0 on Clark with Brenly on deck. Giants ahead 3-0 in the second inning. Been a pretty inauspicious beginning for the Mets today. 2 errors, and they've already lost Johnson. Howard, that is. Strike. 3-1.
Of course, Davey Johnson, as the manager of the Met, has been trying to really make a lot of changes. The reason I'm sure Howard Johnson was playing shortstop, hits better from the left side. Krukow is...
It's hit in the air to left field, and Mookie Wilson is there to make the catch, and the runners hold. So Krukow is at second, and Gladden is still at first, as Clark becomes the first out of the inning, and Bob Brenly will be the hitter.
Anyway, as I was saying, Davey trying to get the left-handed hitter in there, even though Howard Johnson has not been playing a lot of shortstop. He has done it on occasion. Santana not hitting that well. You figure you'll get Howard Johnson in there. Krukow, a tough pitcher. Maybe you get some extra runs. And then you have an injury. And
Bob Brenly takes a breaking pitch low, and the count 1-0.
Came up with a great 1984 season, was on the All-Star team, hit over 20 home runs.
And he pops this one up into shallow center field. Too deep for the infield fly rule to be called, and again there's bumping, but Backman makes the catch. Dykstra coming in and Backman going out, and obviously one didn't hear the other if there was any communication. And another collision, but this one doesn't hurt.
Again, another problem that if you ever watched any Met games, Lenny Dykstra plays extremely deep. And it's hard with a big crowd, as we have a sellout sometimes, and you can see Backman calling him off. I'm not sure if Dykstra really yelled. I know he put his hand up, but Backman is going after the ball. So the real way to communicate, again, is to just scream at the top of your lungs, I got it, I got it, I got it. That was a lot better than raising your hand as if you're making a fair catch. There's no way that the second baseman can see that.
Now Leonard, who reached on an error by Heath, producing a Giants run in the first, goes after a high fastball, and the count is 0-1.
Again, Dykstra with a long way to run. You see the fair catch. Hand go up, which really does not have much to do with baseball. Backman no doubt does not hear him. Very similar play to last night, except in the infield. Robbie Thompson and Jose Uribe going after a pop fly. And not last night, excuse me, Friday night.
2 out in the 10th.
Yeah, 2 out in the 10th. No
Twice in
run
the ball
scoring.
Game. 0-2 the count.
Of course, so talking about important plays, this is one for Ron Darling. Made an excellent pitch to Will Clark. Then got Brenly to pop up to center field. you're already 2 runs down, excuse me, 3 runs down, you want to get out of this inning because you do know the Mets have capabilities of coming back and scoring a lot of runs.
To the count, 2 on, 2 out, 3-0. The Giants on top in the second inning. Leonard really a vital man for the Giants, offensively and also attitude-wise. He's been known to drift.
Well, he's the one I talked to today, and he said the big difference between last year and this year is that not only, I guess maybe he's talking about himself, but all of us have better attitude.
Still 1-2, but it's a long season, too. I mean, how often do you see a team get off to a good start and everybody gets euphoric? And, I mean, look at the Cleveland Indians. I mean, it's a great story. They get off to a terrific start, have a long winning streak, come home, win a dramatic game, and then all of a sudden, you kind of half come back to real life. And right now, Cleveland is 9 back and under 500.
Well, except the one difference between, I believe, in my mind, the Giants and the Indians is that the Giants have better pitching. They proved that last year.
Line to right field, but right is east. And so Leonard makes solid contact, but to no avail. And in the inning, the Giants get a couple. At the end of an inning and a half, 3-0 San Francisco. Giants lead the Mets 3-0. Here's Roger Craig talking about the Giants' play through April and May.
Well, I've been very pleased. People ask me, what is it, the offense or defense or the pitching? But really it's the attitude. And people say attitude does not win ball games. I disagree with them. We've got a great attitude on the ball club. We lost a real tough game Friday night. We came back yesterday and played a real good ball game and won, broke our losing streak. But, you know, I think as a manager or coach, if you can bring get your players who want to come to the ballpark and give you 100% for 3 hours, then you're doing your job. And that's what these guys are doing. They never give up. They believe they can beat anybody.
Roger Craig, in his first full season as the Giants manager, he took over in late September last year when Jim Davenport was let go. Ray Knight, what a week he had. His wife, Nancy Lopez, gave birth to a baby daughter to start the week. Then he got into a battle with Tom Niedenfuhr after he was hit by a pitch, and then picked up his 1,000th career hit. So Knight starts the second inning by looking at a strike, 0-1.
To me, the interesting thing about that strike, it was a breaking ball. As we said 2 weeks ago, Ray Knight is in a typical hot streak where he looks like he goes up and looks for every pitch. First pitch fastball. In fact, until he gets 2 strikes, which is the situation now, he is looking for a pitch that he can drive, mainly a fastball. And when you're hot, and he has been, you know, as you said, hitting over 330, he has been hitting those pitches and getting them. Now, 0-2, it's a little bit different story.
He stayed hot, but his power production is down. The 6 home runs he hit all came early on. To right center field, Gladden and Davis come together, and it's Chile for the catch. And Krukow has retired the first 4 Mets. 1 away with the bases empty. The Giants on top 3-0, and Mookie Wilson coming up. Some scores. The Pirates in the 6th inning lead the Dodgers 10-2. Pittsburgh beat them last night as well. The Phillies are hot. The Phillies are looking for their 6th in a row, and St. Louis leads Cincinnati 2-1 after routing the Reds yesterday. The Cubs lead Atlanta 5-1 in the 6th inning. And Houston is out in front of Montreal early, 2-0 in the 2nd. Houston starts the day 2.5 in front of Atlanta and 3 in front of the Giants. 1-0 to Mookie Wilson. Started the year on the disabled list. He was injured in a rundown in spring training when his glasses shattered. But he's come back, and they've been using him on occasion in left field. This is the 3rd start he's made now in left, with Dykstra staying in center. And he's been hot. Off speed to center field, and it's Gladden drifting to make the play. 2 down, 5 straight retired by Krukow, and 4 of those on fly balls. Danny Heath, when asked to fill in for Strawberry last year when Darrell was hurt, early on, did a good job. He's the kind of player that can do it for you for a while, but has really never been able to do it on a sustaining or a regular basis, but still a valuable man to have on a team.
Well, excellent pinch hitter. Has on numerous occasions hit a lot of pinch hit home runs for the Mets. And I think it was one of the problems last year when Strawberry was out, that instead of having Heap on the bench to use him in late situations, which come up so much in the National League, he was unavailable, mainly because he had been in the game the entire day or night. As we look at Darryl Strawberry, not the same thumb that he hurt last year.
And Gary Carter also in the picture. It's popped up again, this time in foul territory, and it's Brenly making the catch. So Krukow starts by retiring the first 6, and 5 of those have hit the ball in the air. And we'll go to the third with the Giants squeezing the Mets 3-0.
And the New York Yankees. For Boston battles Milwaukee next week on ABC Sports.
Chili Davis is an interesting case. We talked about how well he hits Mets pitching, yet he is 2 for 18 lifetime against Ron Darling. That's just 111. However, when it comes to a couple of other Mets, he destroys them. He's hitting .571 against Orozco, and he's 9 for 16 against Gooden. And it's Chili who had that great quote when asked about Gooden and his success against him. He said, "He ain't God, man." So some nights he's close.
Yes, very close.
And there is Dwight Gooden, coming off a victory over the Dodgers last week as the Mets swept L.A.
An off game, he only struck out 10. It was interesting about the panic situation, if you read the papers about Dwight Gooden. He did get knocked around by the Giants out in San Francisco, which is his only bad outing of the year. He was let down by his defense in Los Angeles. Most likely should be about 9-1 on the year, an ERA under 2, and they were wondering what's wrong with Dwight Gooden.
Well, Davis not particularly sartorially splendid at this point, behind to the count 0-2, and swings late at a fastball, and down he goes. So Davis continues to have his troubles with Ron Darling. Now 2 for 19 lifetime against him.
Well, it looks like he just kind of throws him it looks, I don't know, almost a split finger or just a fastball that runs away. You can see where Hearn catches the ball right on the outside part of the plate. One of the most important things about a good fastball, not only the velocity, but the movement. That ball ran right away from Chili Davis. Couldn't catch up with it.
Luis Quiñones is the batter. Again, he's playing with the injury to Chris Brown, the regular third baseman. Quiñones had been in Phoenix, called up on the 1st of May to provide backup help in the infield. Hernandez and Hearn are both there, and it's Keith screaming, "I have it," and he does. So the Mets, who've already had a couple of collisions, make sure they don't have a third, and there are quickly 2 down. Robbie Thompson comes up. Thompson, one of the young Giants, 12 of the 24 have 2 years or less experience. And Thompson, in fact, made the jump from Double-A. He played at Shreveport last year and batted .261. And those who watch him play every day say he is a very smart player and a very mature player. And he had a better May than April, in contrast to the other heralded rookie, Clark. Strike, 1-1. So the Giants going with a rookie first baseman, a rookie second baseman, a second-year shortstop, and Brown is a second-year third baseman, and Quiñones in there today as a rookie. 0-2.
Well, also an outstanding defensive player. And again, as we talked last year, the Giants had pitching was right in the middle of the National League. ERA right around 3.6 runs a game. So if you improve your defense, you're usually going to improve your pitching.
A fly ball to center field, and Dykstra is there as Darling settles down in the third after a shaky 2 innings. At the end of 2 1/2 before a packed house at Shea, it's still the Giants 3 and the Mets nothing.
Hamburger places think it's a snack.
Baseball is brought to you by Bud Light. Everything else is just a light.
Shea Stadium in New York. Al Michaels and Jim Palmer with you on a hot Sunday. 3-0 Giants on Cap Day. And Rafael Santana starts the bottom of the third by taking a strike. If you joined us late, Howard Johnson started at shortstop and was shaken up in a collision with Len Dykstra. A strained tendon in his forearm is the report, and he'll be x-rayed. Doesn't appear to be serious. And Santana, who was going to get most of the day off, winds up in the lineup. Little nubber to the right side, and Thompson drifts back and has the right angle. One away. The first 7 now set down by Krukow. We mentioned Mike's start against the Mets at Candlestick Park, in which he gave up a couple of first-inning runs on a home run by Keith Hernandez. But then he settled down, and he retired the next 23 in a row. Coming up Saturday, a look at the upcoming U.S. Open with Jack Nicklaus, who is a member of our ABC Sports Commentary staff. And then at 5 Eastern Time, the final jewel in the Triple Crown, as you'll see the Belmont Stakes. Ed Hearn, who started the season in the minors and serves now as Gary Carter's backup, hits a ground ball to short. Uribe throws him out, and there are 2 away. So the sure-handed Dominican throwing out the number 8 hitter, and that's the first ground out. Everything else had been hit in the air, and Hernandez had struck out, but it's the first time a Met has hit the ball on the ground.
That's probably only for the reason that Mike Krukow made a nice pitch away, and Ed Hearn tried to go out there and, instead of going with it, pull it. The result usually is a ground ball.
Ron Darling, a 146 lifetime hitter, hits a pop fly to shallow center, and it's Uribe for the easy catch, and that's 3 perfect easy innings for Mike Krukow, who's sailing along. At the end of 3, it's the Giants 3 and the Mets nothing.
A showdown in the American League West. This is Corey McFerrin in New York. The Rangers and the Royals. 4th inning, Charlie Leibrandt facing Texas rookie Ruben Sierra with 2-1. It's a line shot to left field. It is heading for the seats. A 3-run home run for Sierra. His first major league hit right now. It's 3-2 Texas in the 6th.
And so the Texas Rangers, the big surprise in the American League West, are on top. Houston, the big surprise in the National League West, along with the Giants, they're on top. And here the Giants lead the Mets. Now, highest winning percentage among the active pitchers, Gooden at an ungodly .758, or a godly .758. And Oral Hershiser, Ron Guidry. And Ron Darling is number 4 on that list. Minimum 30 victories, 35 and 18. Almost 2 out of every 3. As Hernandez gets ready for the 4th inning.
Well, it's interesting. I think I read something that Bob Ojeda said, 6-1 going into last night's game, which he eventually lost. So now he's 6-2 after being 9-11. And he said that a lot of people feel that pitching is anywhere from 50 to 90% of the game. And if that's the case, then defense is 50% of whatever that other percent is. And there's a lot to that. Darling and Gooden, outstanding stuff. It makes it even more amazing that Hershiser, as effective as he is, playing with one of the worst defensive ball clubs in the history of the game. I mean, you do not read a box score without seeing a Dodger making an error. It looks like one of their outfielders, their infielders, haven't made one by the 9th inning. A pitcher will pick up a ball and throw it away.
Well, what's amazing about the Dodgers is not only the defensive woes, and last year they had them as well and won the division. This year minus Guerrero, and they're still in the race. Of course, everybody is in the race. It's only the 1st of June, but I stated on the opening today that the Mets have done everything but put 4 teams out of the race in the East. And even though the St. Louis Cardinals have 4 months, when you're 14.5 games back and in last place, and you're back of a club like the Mets, you're in deep trouble. 2-2.
Well, the only thing that gives you hope, if you go back to 1978, when the Red Sox were way ahead of the Yankees, and the Yankees caught them. Of course, it took about 5 or 6 major injuries on the Red Sox for the Yankees to do that, and then eventually ended up losing in a 1-game playoff. So
both, but I wouldn't hold out a whole lot right now. Fly ball to right field, and Danny Heath moves over to make the catch by the line. Uribe is gone, and it brings up Krukow. It's amazing in a way the way the Cardinals played last year, and the questioning, the line of questioning in every sport is the same. When a team wins the championship, the media wants to know from the manager or the coach or whomever, depending on the sport, how you going to keep it going. Krukow grounds it to short. Santana throws him out, and we all know how tough it is now to come up with a dynasty. The Lakers losing in the NBA semis. No team has repeated in 17 years in that sport. In baseball, the dynasty is a good year and a half these days.
If that.
Yeah.
Hey, an interesting thing to me, the way I look at that, though, is that I think the intent of Whitey Herzog, after, of course, going to the World Series and losing last year to the Royals, was the fact that she did not want to sit pat. But some of the moves he made have not really panned out. You know, it's great to give away Joaquin Andujar, but who's going to replace him?
Ladden takes a strike, but the big thing, too, about Whitey is that there's no way he could figure that Tommy Herr would be hitting in the ones and Pendleton would be hitting so low, and
well,
except no production out of Mike Heath.
I think if you really take a realistic viewpoint of it, and it's hard to do sometimes when you win because the euphoria is such that you figure this team is going to go on forever, is that most of the Cardinals last year had career years. Now, there were some exceptions. But most of their players, starting with Coleman, who had never played in the big leagues, had their best years, especially Herr, especially McGee.
One attempt, foul to the plate, 1-2. That's what I love about the New York crowd. There were enough people here who were calling for interference, knowing that if you run into a bunted ball in fair territory, it's an automatic out.
Of course, the call was that he was still in the batter's box, so let's do it again.
But leave it to the fans in New York and in places like Philadelphia where they watch so intently to get on the umpire to try to get the call. 1-2 pitch is grounded to the right side, and it's Wally Backman right there to throw him out. And it's 9 in a row, set down by Darling after a shaky start. Krukow, meanwhile, has retired 9 of 9, and it's 3-0 Giants.
Staff with a special look at the U.S. Open Golf Championship, Saturday.
At Shea Stadium, the Giants 3 and the Mets nothing. 3 runs, 3 hits, and no errors for the Giants. No runs, no hits, and 2 errors for the Mets. Mike Krukow has faced 9 Mets and retired all, and he starts with Dykstra in the 4th. Krukow has now retired 32 consecutive Mets in his last 2 outings. We talked about he yielded a couple of runs in the first inning and then retired the next 23, which took him through 8 in a game in which the Giants had a big lead and his back started to stiffen. So he came out in that game at the end of 8, and now he has started by retiring the first 9 today.
Well, what makes them so tough for the Mets is primarily they're a very good fastball hitting team, and he's got a great breaking ball. As we see, just missing with a changeup. So the key for him to be successful and what he's been able to do today is to get ahead of them and then go to the breaking ball. We've seen a lot of off flies.
First time he goes 3-1 as Johnson looks on, hopeful the Mets can get somebody on.
Well, this is what the game's all about, Al. You have a guy that last year in the games that he led off, the Mets were 21 games over 500 because he will take a walk if he's given to him. And that's a borderline pitch right there. Roger Craig does not agree with the call. Ball looked like it split the outside middle of the plate, but again, Dykstra looking for a walk. Kind of engineered his way down to first. Judge for yourself. Friendly sitting right in the middle of the plate. Got a short guy, Lenny Dykstra, not very tall. Strike zone's supposed to be right around the knees in the National League, maybe a little bit under.
He's got tall knees, though. Paul Runge is the plate umpire. Dave Pallone at first, Bob Engel at second, Dana DeMuth at third. Dykstra with speed.
This is exactly what you do not want to do 3-run lead. Create that first base opening. A lot of managers like to have a second place hitter that can pull the ball. A couple of hopper into right field. It's first and third. You're looking at a very easy way to score a run. Either a double play ground ball, or ground ball to the right side, a pop fly, or a fly ball to the outfield.
Dykstra 14 steals, and he's been caught only once this season. Brenly with a good arm. Krukow does a pretty decent job holding runners close. 0-1 the count. He tries to bunt, and it's dropped on purpose by Krukow, and Dykstra was alert enough to go back to first base. Krukow might have had a double play had he caught it and then threw to first base. In a way, he outsmarted himself, I think. He thought about it. He knew what he was doing, but it turned out to be the wrong thing. Watch.
Well, right now, see right there, Lenny Dykstra goes back, but if he had made more of an effort to try to catch the ball and then let it drop, I think Dykstra would have been confused.
It's funny, you can see it there too. If he would have made the catch, if he would have snatched it and thrown to first, he probably had the double play. But he was thinking about dropping it and getting the DP that way, and Dykstra, figuring he would catch it, got back to first base. So instead of the double play, they just get the force out, and now Backman is at first base with one away.
I think the biggest concern, and that happened many times to me, is that you're worried that you might have a bad base runner on first, and he'll keep running. So when you drop it, all you do is get the force at first base, and because of this really base runner's ineptness, you have a runner in scoring position. Of course, in that play versus one down the third baseline, you can kind of see where the runner is and what his reactions are.
So Krukow, an intelligent guy and a good pitcher, a man who really outsmarts himself. There is Clark. When Clark sees the bunt, his initial reaction is to think about fielding it, as you can see. And that's a rookie mistake in a way, too, even though Krukow wasn't aware, as he was letting it drop, that Clark was that far off first base. In any event, 1 out instead of a possible 2.
Backman stole 30 bases last year. So this is not the type of hitter to worry about a base runner. As much as Backman is capable of stealing second, Keith Hernandez is going up there to get a good pitch to hit. I don't think there's a better hitter in the National League that knows the strike zone. If you worry too much about the base runner, you're going to walk Hernandez, or you're going to be behind him and have to give him a good pitch to hit.
A broken bat base hit. The first Mets hit on a shattered bat as Backman stops at second.
Again, a 2-0 count, Al. Hernandez, smart hitter, as we said, most likely looking for a fastball. Looked like Krukow took a little bit off, but he's not that far out front, just lines it into right field.
So the bat winds up with the firewood as a single by Hernandez tries to ignite a Mets rally here in the 4th inning. 3-0 San Francisco with Backman at second, Hernandez at first, and Ray Knight, who flied out in the 2nd inning.
About all year long, Ray Knight has been getting a lot of fastballs to hit. As a pitcher, you've just missed with your breaking ball. If you're Ray Knight, you say, hey, let's take a chance here. I'm going to look for a fastball out over the plate in a zone where I can drive it. If you're Krukow and you know a guy's been hot and you can hit that fastball, you either hope you make a great pitch with it or you can throw a slider.
Slider there, and the count is 1-1. Hit by Hernandez, snapping the string. 10 2/3 hitless innings against the Mets for Krukow. Oddly, it's Hernandez who snaps it, and Hernandez who got the last hit before that. Bob Lillis, the Giants coach, is the man with a headset behind Roger Craig. There he is, with the Giants' eye in the sky. The assistant general manager, Ralph Nelson, calling down the instructions from above. To right center field. Glasses glistening. It's Gladden making the catch. Backman tags at second, and he goes to third with 2 down. And the call goes up for Mookie. Mookie with first and third and 2 down. With Krukow as Wilson, the switch hitter, comes up. Mookie came in today hitting .355 left-handed and .167 right-handed. So he's where he wants to be at the plate, facing the right-hander. 2 on and 2 out. 0-1.
Wonder if the shoulder injury that he had, arthroscopic surgery on his right arm, might not affect it. You're batting left-handed, basically your left shoulder starts your swing, and you're batting right-handed, it's the other arm. So
chased it, good pitch, ran it down and in at his feet, and it's 0-2.
Again, that's a characteristic of Mookie Wilson. 18 walks and over 600 sometimes at bat one year. A very aggressive swinger. We'll see if Krukow once again tries to go out of the strike zone. Why throw a guy a strike when you don't have to?
Good pitch, kept it in on him, and it's popped in the air to right field. The second baseman Thompson ice cream cones it. Davis looked like he was going to make the catch initially. I don't think he ever called, and then it was Thompson. Craig shakes his head, but the Giants escape as Thompson is able to handle the pop fly, and we'll go to the 5th with San Francisco still leading 3-0.
And for the third leg of our Triple Crown coverage, live, it's the Belmont Stakes Saturday.
This is Corey McPherrin in New York. The Expos and the National League West leading Astros at the Dome. Houston up 3-0 in the third. Glenn Davis with 1 man on crunches it deep to left field. It's a fair ball in the upper deck, makes it 5-0. It's now 5-1 Astros in the 5th.
Here it's the Giants 3 and the Mets nothing, and Will Clark, the rookie first baseman, leading things off in the 5th inning. 1-0 the count. Clark, Brentley, and Leonard, the 2, 3, and 4 men in the Giants order against Ron Darling, who set down 9 straight. He joined us late. The Giants got a run on the first. Gladden singled, and then with 2 out, Leonard hit a fly ball to right. Danny Heap dropped it outside. In the 2nd inning, the Giants loaded the bases on a walk, a single by Uribe that Dykstra couldn't handle when he collided with Johnson. An error by Darling, and then a 2-run single by Gladden. But since then, 9 in a row retired by Darling, who gets this one in for a strike, and it's 3-1. Clark, prone to striking out. He's been striking out more than once a game. 48 Ks in 45 games. 3-2.
It's really kind of an illustration of the way he likes to hit the ball. I saw him in the '84 Olympics. Of course, he hit a tee shot to right center on a low inside breaking ball, but he said he goes up there with the intent of really hitting the ball the other way. Occasionally somebody will hang a breaking ball and he'll get on top of it. In fact, his first at bat, a home run, was to center field off Ryan.
That's ripped right back through the middle for a base hit. And it was interesting, the Mets defensing it that way, pulling him to hit toward left. So a single for Clark. The Giants have their first hit since the 2nd inning. They have 4 hits off Darling. All of them have been singles, and it brings up Bob Brentley. Brentley hitless in 2 trips today. Leads the league in walks with 34. And he hits a check swing, bouncer back to Darling, who goes to second, and that's all as Clark goes in hard to make sure Backman couldn't turn it over. Brentley gets fooled and bounces into a 1-4 force out with Leonard coming up.
We talked about Ron Darling being really a great all-around athlete. He knows where he's going to make the play, just to turn, the throw. Nice slide by Clark. Totally eliminates the double play effort. But if you notice, Darling, you have to really be on balance when you make that throw. Worst thing that can happen is if you don't get one out. You want to make sure you get the lead runner. No use hurrying and not getting anybody. If you are already trailing 3-0 and puts you into a big inning situation, almost put your team out of the ball game.
Jeff Leonard has hit 2 fly balls to right field. One was dropped by Heath, and the other was a line drive at him. Token throw. Friendly now that starts to be going.
Annual guy, Jeffrey Leonard, that normally strikes up out over 100 times a year. We said a very aggressive hard swinger.
Hit that ball twice. Chopped it foul at the plate, and then on the backswing hit it into the first row. 0-1.
In the Philadelphia area. Went to the same high school that Will Chamberlain went to. And
Walt Hazard.
Walt Hazard. Wally Jones.
Overbrook High School.
Now lives in Los Angeles.
Came up with the Dodgers, and then they sent him to Houston. And the Giants have had him since '81. 0-2 the count.
There's your split-fingered fastball. As I said before, it's a pitch that looks exactly like a fastball. You and I were talking to Roger Craig. You throw it with the same arch speed, except the bottom of the ball drops out. The key to hitting is being able to pick up the ball as early as you can. And you can throw a pitch that really simulates a fastball but doesn't get there as quick and drops. It can be very effective. Ed Hearn making a very nice stop with that outside curveball to keep Brenly at first base.
One ball, 2 strikes to count. Hit 3-0 with Brenly at first base, and 1 away. Off the end of the bat, hit foul right by Jose Morales, and the count 1-2. Fan.
Interesting point, and I know you used to live in the San Francisco area. If you look at last year's record, they were 24-57 on the road. Everybody complains about playing there. They almost played 500 baseball at Candlestick Park. I asked one of the players, how come you were so much worse on the road than you were at home? And they said, well, because the teams that come in there like to play there even less than we do because of the weather conditions.
Well, there are 2 ways to look at it. I've always felt it hurts the Giants more than it hurts the visiting team, even though others disagree. The 2-2 pitch with Brenly going is in the dirt, skipping away, and Brenly rounds second, and he will go to third. So he was running on the pitch, and then just kept on going as it winds up going to the backstop. And what it will amount to, scoring-wise, is a stolen base for Brenly, and an error charged, or a wild pitch charged to Ron Darling.
Again, most likely a run and hit. Ball is so far and in the dirt. Again, another aggressive play by Roger Craig. You start the runner, you stay out of the double play, possibly put him in scoring position. It turned out not only did he get to second, he got to third.
So the infield is in. 3-2 is the count on Leonard, and it's a ground ball by Backman for a base hit. And so with the infield playing in, that wild pitch turns out to be a big play because it moves the infield up, and Leonard grounds one into right for a base hit. And it's 4-0 with Davis coming to the plate. Another look right now as Backman can't handle it.
Well, again, as you said, you move up about 3 or 4 steps. It cuts down on your range. Jeff Leonard just took a fastball exactly where it was thrown. Darling, really, if you make that kind of pitch, you expect to get an out. But when you have your infield in, you have them out of the normal defensive positioning you'd like to have them in, and the ball goes into right field.
Davis is at the plate. And with a runner going, it's fouled away. Just to finish up, we started to talk about Candlestick Park, and I said that I felt that it really hurt the Giants more than the visiting team, and I say that from the experience of having been the Giants announcer for 3 years and watching the attitudes of the teams and the visiting teams as well. The visiting team, especially if it was a relatively experienced team, would come in and at least know they'd be out of there in 2 or 3 days. The Giants, if they'd come home from a road trip, would have 12 or 14 games in front of them, and then you had a couple of real bad nights of cold weather and foggy weather and a lot of wind, and you'd say, oh my God, we've got to play in this for another week. And that would begin to wear on them. And so I'm one of those, and I think I'm in the majority of those who have seen a lot of games in Candlestick who feels it hurts the Giants more than the visiting team for that reason. Another throw to first base. Then there are those who go back, and especially the senior fans, the fans who have been following the Giants since they moved west, who go back and say, well, gee, it never bothered Mays and it didn't seem to bother McCovey. Well, nothing bothered those guys. They're extraordinary players.
It was nice to see Willie in the Giant locker room today.
There goes the runner again. It swung on and missed, and the throw sails into center field, and Leonard gets up and he goes to third. So it's another steal, the second for the Giants in the inning, and this time Hearn gets the throwing error.
It's a pitch, if you're a catcher, you know you're going to have to hurry on. An 0-1 pitch, a slow curveball, down in the dirt, batter swings, complicates it. Hearn lets it go, knowing he has to hurry. And rushing the throw allows him to throw it into center field. A more veteran catcher most likely would say, hey, I don't have a chance to throw him out. Let's just make a good throw to second. Maybe he'll stumble. Maybe we'll get a break. But now you're looking at another run with the infield in.
And that's line to center field, and it should be deep enough to score. Leonard, who made the mistake of starting to come in, then he has to go back and re-tag, and he turns what should have been a routine play into something close, but he is safe. For some reason, on a drive hit to center field, Davis losing his bearings and walking or starting to move toward the plate and having to go back and re-tag.
Again, your first move should be back. You got such a big lead. Again, good athletes, as you see him stumble, have good speed. It's going to be very close, but he'll just make it.
So Leonard scores on a sacrifice fly by Chili Davis, and Quiñones the batter. It's a fly ball to shallow right field, sprinting in his heat, and he does not make the catch. He short hops the ball, and the first base umpire, Dave Malone, went out there to make the call. And it was Backman yielding all the way that time as the right fielder Heap came sprinting in. So it's a single for Quiñones with 2 down, and Thompson is the batter.
Looped up again and again. Looked like Danny Heap's first step. If you look at the replay, he's not even moving, mainly because he took a step back. Makes the play, but on one hop.
Robbie Thompson now with a score of 5-0. And Darling throwing softly over to first base.
Thompson, of course, shocking Jesse Orozco with a 10th inning home run last night. Not known for his home run power. He had 7 in Double-A last year.
Giants sending Manny Trio away. And last year they had a lot of trouble at first base as McKenzie flashed the signs. They had David Green. They thought he was the answer. He turned out to be no answer at all. Traded for Dan Dreesen. He was released this year. Runner goes. The pitch is low, and Hearn's throw is not a good one this time either. And Quiñones steals second. Crowd is getting on Hearn, but again, here's a guy who plays about every 9 days. He's in there today just to give Carter a rest.
Well, Carter hasn't had a very good year at throwing either, but if you are going to be a pitcher or a catcher and call slow curveballs, and the ball obviously takes longer to get to home plate, you are not going to throw runners out.
Popped up, and it's Knight there calling for it on the skin part, and that's the end of the inning. But another nightmarish one for the Mets as Gary Carter can only look. 5-0 Giants at the end of 4½. Stadium in New York, the game was a sellout. No tickets were available on a walk-up basis. And about 50,000 with their brand new caps looking on, and it's about the only thing they've had to wave about today, is to show their wares, because the Mets have kept them pretty silent. And Mike Krukow has them pretty much glued to their seats as the Giants lead at 5-0. The Mets have only one hit through 4, and Danny Heath starts the 5th inning by taking low, ball 1. 1-0. Heath, Santana, and Hearn. Strike. 1-1.
An example of how you can be successful. You start a hitter off with a changeup. He's most likely looking for a fastball, and you come back with a curveball and get it over. And follow it with another changeup. What he's been able to do, as I said, 6'4", about 205 pounds. He has a kind of sneaky delivery, a lot of leverage, hides the ball well. As I said, reminds me a lot of Don Sutton. Has a good tight breaking ball, changeup to look for, and then a sneaky fastball.
Changes speeds again, and the count 2-2.
And if you're ahead of the hitter, I mean, if you're ahead of the hitters, even though the National League is most likely more of a low ball league, you can pitch up because they swing at balls.
Sharply down to Thompson, and the rookie throws him out. 1 away here in the 5th inning. 1 out. Bases empty. Santana the batter.
Excuse me. Oh, kind of an interesting comment in this last week. The Cardinals, Jim Deshaies of the Houston, apparently struck out 10 batters. The next night, Mike Scott did the same. 11, and Whitey Herzog was saying Deshaies throwing only about 80 miles per hour, 79 on the gun, had us swinging at pitches all over our head all night. You can get ahead of the hitters and then throw pitches that are close enough to the strike zone with good stuff on them. You're going to be very effective, and that's what Mike Krukow has done today.
Into center field for a base hit. Santana sort of guiding that ball right back to the
Well, he did. It was a breaking ball up in the count, and Krukow does not fall off to his left. You see right there, he catches that ball. Not hit particularly hard. Kind of shift him around to right field. Uribe almost is the type of, and Santana's almost the type of the player that you would shift him up the middle. Doesn't pull the ball very much.
Snaps an 0 for 14 scheme for Rafael Santana. Hearn is at the plate, and he takes inside, ball 1. Darling is due up next, but George Foster has come out on deck to hit for him. 5-0 Giants. 1 out, bottom of the 5th inning. Rafael Santana, the runner at first. Foster hit a grand slam off Niedenfuhr earlier in the week. Hitting for power of late.
Another solo home run, I think, Wednesday night, I believe. Actually, from George Foster standpoint, he's probably happy that Darryl Strawberry got hurt a little bit because he's going to get more ABs. With the team, I'm not sure if that helps a whole lot.
In the air to right center field, but Chili Davis backs up and makes the catch near the edge of the track as Santana retreats to first base. So 2 down. And George Foster coming up to hit for Ron Darling. a way, it's kind of a funny spot for Foster. And in fact, I thought that Johnson, after Hearn had flied out, might pull George back. A 3-run homer would be real big at this point. A 2-run homer would be kind of big. It sort of gets you back in the game. But what you're really doing here is you're getting rid of Foster. Whereas if you do somehow get back into the game, and in the 8th inning, let's say you are down by 2 or 3, that's when you really want him to come up. So in a way, it's an odd time for Foster to pinch hit down 5-0 this early.
I think the only reason what Davey may be thinking about is that if they do eventually get back in the game, if Foster produces here, whether it's a home run or a single, you do keep a rally going. George is the type of guy that you can use as a pinch hitter. You're not going to have to worry about using him for defense. Much better offensive player than defensive player. Kevin Mitchell would be a guy that you could use, but you might eventually end up hitting for Santana, mainly because of Howard Johnson's injury. So what he's trying to do is keep some players that maybe can do more than one thing on the bench.
And that's Rick Fowl. And it's a good point, too, when you think about it. Not only with a 24-man roster, and not only Johnson out of the game because he was injured, but Strawberry is also hurt. And so that bench is very, very shallow right now.
Well, it is. It's an interesting thing about how Darryl Strawberry hurt his thumb on his left hand. It's last year, of course, on his right hand, he kind of hyperextended and tore the ligaments in his right thumb diving for a ball. This is just the way he holds the bat. Davey Johnson was talking at length that he is going to, it's kind of an unusual thing to do to a guy that hit 28 home runs last year after missing 7 weeks. He said he doesn't get the bat out into his fingertips enough. So when he does get jammed, it causes a lot of bone bruises.
2-2 the count. You know, the Mets, on the subject of Strawberry, 31-12 is the record, the best in baseball, and they've really done it without very much production from Carter and Strawberry. Carter had a hot first couple of weeks, but he's really tailed off. He's at 235. And Strawberry just hasn't put it together with any consistency this year. And yet here they are on the verge of a runaway in the division.
Well, when he came back from that injury last year, he went on a tear. If you go back to the end of 1984, basically when the pennant race was over, he went on a tear in kind of mid-September. I think the one thing that Davey Johnson talked about before his injury last year is that almost every time he went to home plate, he had what he would deem a quality at bat. In other words, looked like he had an idea of what the pitcher was throwing, wasn't expanding the strike zone, was playing within himself. This year has somewhat been of a struggle, and this injury certainly doesn't help it.
3-2 with a runner going with 2 out, and it's taken for called strike 3. Down goes Foster on Truco's second strikeout. We've played 5. It's 5-0 San Francisco, and we'll be back after this word from your local station.
Serious questions about one of America's best-selling...
Corey McFerrin in New York. The Astros of the Expos. Top of 6. Houston up 5-1. Andre Dawson, 2 men on. And look out. Takes Bob Knepper deep. Forget about it. Dawson's second homer of the day. His 11th on the year. It's now 5-4 Houston in the 6th. Dawson responsible for all 4 Montreal runs.
And here at Shea Stadium, Rick Aguilera, who was in the starting rotation at the beginning of the season. In fact, we did a game, the first Sunday telecast this year. Aguilera went up against Shane Rawley in the Mets-Phillies contest at Veterans Stadium, but he has had his troubles. He is working out of the bullpen right now, and he's working in mop-up roles. American League, White Sox lead Toronto in the 9th inning 6-4. Milwaukee and Cleveland are tied in the 7th. The Red Sox are leading the Twins in the 8th. The Rangers lead Kansas City 3-2 in the 6th. Baltimore and California are tied 1-1 in the 5th. Oakland has taken the early lead over the Yankees, and Detroit and Seattle later. Dave Kingman winning yesterday's Yankee-Oakland game with a home run in the 9th inning. Next week, we can tell you that Baltimore will be taking on the Yankees, and we'll bring you that one along with Boston at Milwaukee. So check your local listings for our telecast, which commences at 3 Eastern time next Sunday on ABC. Jose Uribe to lead off in the 6th inning. High for a ball, 1-0.
And you mentioned that Rick Aguilera was one of the, at least penciled in as one of the 5 starters. We saw him pitch in Philadelphia.
That's grounded to the left of Santana. Nice play. Throws and still doesn't get him. Uribe can really fly. Jose Uribe got a good break out of the box and negates a fine play by Santana. Infield hit.
Well, watch where the ball is. It's out over the plate. He's hitting and really moving towards first. Santana, underrated shortstop. The only thing he doesn't have is maybe as good an arm as some of the other shortstops. Makes a great play to get to the ball, and Uribe just too fast.
Uribe going on the bunt run, and the throw is too high, and Hearn's going to get booed again. Welcome to the big leagues.
Once again, I don't really believe it's Ed Hearn's fault. I mean, when you have a guy like Gary Carter who has an exceptional arm, and I think he's throwing something like 7 runners out of 45 attempts, very low percentage. You get the message that your pitching staff is not doing the job of holding the runners on.
Krukow swings away off Hernandez's glove. Keith recovers, and nobody's at first base. Hernandez came so far in. Krukow was up there to bunt, but Hernandez was so far in that Krukow really had no choice but to swing away. And he alertly is able to pick up a base hit. Look at where Hernandez is. So there's a case of expecting the bunt, but really forcing the hitter to swing away. And it has scored a base hit. Runners at first and second now with nobody out, and Dan Gladden is the batter. And Gladden is up there to bunt, fouls it away. 0-1.
We talked about Rick Aguilera's problems. Or some problems did not come on singles to the shortstop, beating it out, or a ball off the first baseman's glove. He pitched 25 innings with 10 home runs. Basically, in spring training, talking to Davey Johnson, he has a curveball to go along with a slider and a fastball and a changeup. But the minute the season started, he went with his slider and his fastball.
Gladden drops the bunt, and Hearn can't handle this one, and look out. And you know that the mock Eddie will be starting very shortly. It's his day off. It's Hearn's day off, too, the way it's turning out.
Plays right in front of him. He knows he has an out at third base, and he simply can't pick up the ball. It's not easy playing behind one of the best catchers in baseball, and when you do get your chance to play, have an off day.
So the Giants now have Uribe at third, Krukow at second, and Gladden at first. Hearn is playing only his third major league game. The Eddie chant started years ago, and it was a love chant for the Ranger goalie Ed Giacomin. And then through the years, you've had the Bronx Eddie cheers, with Eddie Whitson having his problems at Yankee Stadium, and a new rendition today at Shea. Met infield is in, taken low, ball 1. 1-0, the count on Will Clark.
Rick Aguilera saw the earned run average up there in the 6s after last year coming up from Tidewater, 10-7 on the year. We look forward to him being the 5th starter, especially with Ed Lynch on the bench with a knee surgery. But as Davey Johnson said, he got out of sync. He wanted to be a power pitcher, a fastball slider, 2 pitches that are very much the same speed. He's been more effective out of the bullpen because he's gone back to not as many curveballs as changeups. But as a starting pitcher, the second and third times around, if you get that far and everything's the same speed, the hitter just about has you timed.
2-0 the count. The Giants on top 5-0 in the 6th inning, and it's fouled back, and the count is 2-1. So no place to hide for Hearn, who started the season at Tidewater. You know, it doesn't matter what kind of a year a team has. You can win 110 games, and you're going to have a few days when you play like this and you get blown out, you make a lot of errors. You just don't want to do them in front of sellout crowds on a Sunday normally. It's nice to do it on a Wednesday afternoon in front of about 15,000. That's grounded down to second and right through Backman, and it's that kind of day for the Mets as Uribe scores, and so does Fruco. And the great thing about that for the Mets is the plane was coming right over the top of Shea, and you couldn't hear the boos. Now you can.
Well, routine grounder. Again, Wally already planning on what he's going to do. Of course, that's one of those plays you have to make an instant decision as a second baseman with the bases loaded. Are you going home? Are you going to be able to turn two? Or, in this case, are you even going to catch the ball? Wally Backman, a fine offensive second baseman, normally does not make that kind of play.
5 errors now for the Mets, and Brentley takes outside ball 1. 7-0 San Francisco.
Just as easy as it is for a pitcher when he has a 7-0 lead or a 5-0 lead to lose his concentration, when you are a defensive player and your team is down 5 runs, now 7 runs, the same thing applies.
The Mets with 36 errors in 43 games coming in. And it's 2-0 now. Gladden off to his lead at third. And Clark, the runner at first. Bradley pops it up. Aguilera looking for somebody to take over, and it's Knight who takes charge. 1 out of the 6th inning. And the crowd with a little bit of "what have you done for us very lately" cheering.
Well, again, we go back to talking about defense. We've done a couple of Dodger games, and go back to a team that has excellent pitching along with the Mets. If you look at the records last year, I think they were 49-11 in games they didn't make errors. It gets down to 31-23 games they made 1 error. When they make 2 errors, it's 500, and anything over that, you're talking way below 500. And those 5 errors have loomed very big in today's picture, overall picture of why the Mets are trailing by 7 runs.
Tone was set when he dropped Leonard's fly ball in the 1st inning for the game's 1st run. An error by Heap produced a run in the 1st. Darling's error was instrumental in a 2-run 2nd inning. Hearn's error producing a run in the 5th, or leading to it anyway. And he also had an errant throw. And then the 2 errors here in the 6th inning. Aguilera. It's fouled away. The Giants, or the Giants on top by a score of 7-0. Trying to take 2 out of 3 with runners at 1st and 3rd now and 1 out. The Mets infield at what you'd like to say is double play depth, but when you've committed 5 errors, I suppose you'll call it force play depth.
Normally when you're ahead, they tell you to make sure of 1. I think in this instance, down by 7, and poorly as they played in the field, they're saying make sure of 1.
1 ball, 2 strikes to count on Leonard.
To me, particularly interesting when you consider that the Giants came in here with a 3-game losing streak, lose a very tough ball game on when 2 infielders collide on Friday night and come back and are leading 7-0. And I know a lot of times when you do interviews with, or you talk to a manager like Roger Craig, and we saw the interview we did early, he's talking about, well, the difference between 85 and 86 is attitude. And you say, well, that's just a word, but attitude usually translates to better performance on the field.
Well, what Craig has done somehow, some way, and it's a good point that you bring up, Jim. They lost the game. I mean, that was a gut-wrenching loss for the Giants to take on Friday night. They had taken the lead on a Thompson homer in the 10th, and then they lost the game in the bottom of the 10th. The Mets got a run to tie, and then on a routine pop-up, Uribe collided with Thompson, and the Mets won the game. And you can really go down the drain after something like that, especially a team so young as the Giants. That's the kind of loss that can let all of the air out of the balloon, and you go into the depths for the next couple of weeks. But here they were bouncing back to snap a 4-game losing streak last night, and on their way to making it 2 out of 3 for the weekend.
Well, another interesting thing is when you go back to last year's series, a series where the Giants and the Mets played 12 times, the Mets won 8 of those games. But of 8 out of those 12 games were one-run ball games. Giants won 2, the Mets won 6. So maybe they didn't win the games, but they played the Mets tough.
That's called strike 3 to Leonard on the inside corner. So Jeff, a mild protest, and then back to the dugout, and that's the second out of the inning.
What happens, you go away from a hitter 2 or 3 times, you have him looking away. Most hitters with 2 strikes, and the ball may be inside, but most hitters with 2 strikes are trying to protect the plate. They're looking for the ball away, whether it's the breaking ball or the good fastball, and Aguilera throws over 90 miles per hour, and all of a sudden you run a ball in on him. Sometimes you freeze.
Pitch to Davis is outside, ball 1. 1-0 the count. 7-0 San Francisco.
And that's that little changeup Davey Johnson was talking about. 2-pitch pitchers are usually better in relief than they are starters. Mainly because the second and third times around, if you make it that far, they have timed your pitches. If you make any kind of mistake, this is what we saw early in the year. Aguilera to Dalton and to Gary Ritas. Nothing but hard stuff. Got a couple of pitches when they were looking for the ball in the middle of the plate. 2 home runs. You give up 3 runs. Your team doesn't really score or play that well that day, and you get a loss.
On the switch hitter. And now it's 3-0 with Quiñones on deck.
I think this is almost a pitch around. Even though you're trailing 7-0 and you don't like to put men on base, you don't want to give Chili Davis a good pitch to hit. You have to make a decision. You want to pitch to the on-deck batter. Does not have the lifetime career stats that Chili Davis has.
Two and 2 the count. Called, and time was called late. Aguilera ready to deliver. The time had been called.
Another thing, we've seen a lot of stolen bases today, Al. If you look at the Giants pitching staff, I mean, they ought to be in the NBA as far as height goes. I mean, I think the shortest guy is right around 6 feet. Most of them are 6'4", 6'5", 6'6". Rick Aguilera is well over 6'3". And the most important thing a pitcher can do is, number one, make the runner's first stop, but also get the ball to home plate as quickly as he can. And the taller you are, usually the longer the windup you have. And if you don't get the ball to the catcher in under 1.4 seconds, average base runners are going to be successful stealing bases. So they boo the catcher, but I think the real reason is that the pitcher, and again it happens a lot with younger pitchers, they don't pay attention to keeping the runners close, changing their cadence, doing things that are going to keep them from getting a running lead.
And that's inside, and Davis is on. So the bases are loaded. The Giants send their 8th man of the inning to the plate, and the person of Quiñones. They've scored twice in the inning, lead at 7-0. Bases loaded and 2 out. Ladden at third, Clark at second, Davis at first. Quiñones playing in place of the injured Chris Brown. Fouls it away. Quiñones had been with Oakland, appeared in 19 games with the A's back in 1983. Then they sent him to Cleveland, though he never made it to the big club. And when the Giants traded their longtime shortstop Johnny LeMaster to the Indians last year, Quiñones came in that transaction. One and one.
Most likely they got him because they did not know if Jose Uribe was going to be able to play at a major league level. Had a fine AAA season the year before last.
It's a little squibber, and Aguilera will have to hustle, throw, and he is saved by Hernandez. Good play by Keith on the scoop, but in the inning, a couple of unearned runs, 2 hits, 2 errors, leave 3-7-0 San Francisco.
Is brought to you by Coors and Coors Light. Beers with a difference worth tasting.
Shea Stadium, Al Michaels along with Jim Palmer in the truck. Kenny Wolf and Craig Janoff on their way to another Emmy with this telecast. 7-0 San Francisco. With Dykstra at the plate. Dykstra, Backman, and Hernandez. Popped up on the skin part. It is the shortstop Uribe. One away. Most of the crowd has remained. I would imagine at the end of this half inning, though, you will begin to see somewhat of an exodus toward the good old Van Wyck. Cap Day. Roughly 50,000. We don't have a crowd count yet, but all the seats were sold before the game. Backman swinging and missing. 0-1.
Remember 2 innings ago when they were waving to show all of America and that ABC was doing this game? I think it was really that they were fanning themselves.
Hot and sticky. And Thompson throws out Backman. 2 away. And Keith Hernandez will come to the plate, having struck out and singled in his 2 appearances. Mike Krukow pitching very well today on his way to what he hopes is his 7th victory. Krukow, in a way, illustrates as well as anybody the changed fortunes of the Giants. He did not pitch that poorly last year. As you look at the best batting support for starting pitchers this year, and interestingly, right up at the top are Darling, who's getting no support today, but that's odd, and Krukow, who has 7 runs already behind him. But last year, Mike did not pitch that poorly. His ERA was 3.38, but his record was 8-11, so he won only 8 games in a season in which the Giants lost 100 games, and right now he's on the verge of winning number 7 on the 1st of June.
No, there are countless Giant pitchers that if you look at their records, not the stats, in other words, innings pitched, hits allowed, walk, base on balls, strikeouts, you would say they really had bad years. But again, to finish in the middle of the National League, even though I think most people characterize Candlestick Park as a pitcher's ballpark.
That's a little cue shot, and that's right off the pool table. And there's nothing Quiñones can do. You've heard the expression for years, he cued the ball. I have rarely seen a ball with more English than that one. I mean, that one went about 9 different directions.
Well, Keith was kind of joking in the United Airlines Flight magazine. They have an article on him, and he talks about Joe Garagiola saying that he was a spray hitter. And he said, what do you mean? I drive the ball. I don't spray the ball, I drive the ball. Well, there's a perfect example of cueing the ball.
That
really
might have been the oddest path I've ever seen a ground ball take. Right off the end of the bat. Normally when you cue them like that, they just spin a little bit. You can tell there's some English on them. But rarely is it as pronounced as the path that grounder took. Hernandez coming out of the game for pinch runner Tim Tuffle, and Knight is at the plate. And Knight rips it to deep left field and down the line and gone.
About going up there looking for a fastball. See for yourself. Middle of the plate, inside now. When you're going well, you get that pitch and you hammer it. That's exactly what he did.
Knight hit 2 home runs at St. Louis on April the 25th. Had not hit a home run since. That's number 7 on the year. And Wilson spins a base hit into left field. So the crowd saluting Mookie Mookie as you look at Knight, who came into the game today hitting .333, and he has maintained that level with a 1-for-3 performance. Danny Heath is the batter. Heath 0 for 2.
Being married to Nancy Lopez, I think when you ask Ray Knight, hey, how come you can make such a difference? 1 year, he said, I stopped playing golf and did weight. Prepared myself for this year's season instead of just kind of relaxing and taking it easy over the offseason.
Giants get, I believe, Jeff Robinson up in the bullpen. Inside, Bruco coming into the 6th inning, having shut the Mets out. And by the way, the Mets have not been shut out this season. The little spinning hit by Hernandez, the homer by Knight, Wilson at first base, and Heath at the plate. And now it's 3-0, and Bentley throws down to first base, making Wilson go back in on his stomach. And now Roger Craig will go to the mound. The Giants have a pitching coach in Norm Cherry, but when your manager is an ex-pitcher, a lot of times he would just as soon go out there himself. And there is Jeff Robinson.
We were talking to Roger Craig, and there's been some speculation around the league when he was with Detroit that one of the reasons that they had as good a pitching staff as they did was because of Roger Craig's presence. Very good for Sparky Anderson as a bench coach, something we see so much. Roger Craig, bench coach over here, is Bob Lillis. Last year was manager down in Houston.
Now the count, 3 balls and no strikes, and that's in there, and it's 3-1. Giants 7, Mets 2, with 2 out. Wilson at first base. Bottom of the 6th inning. Wilson goes, and he drives it to center field, but Gladden has room and makes the catch about 395 from the plate. Knight hits a homer. They get 2 runs, 3 hits, and we'll go to the 7th inning. San Francisco 7, New York 2.
Mattingly and the New York Yankees. For Boston battles Milwaukee next week on ABC Sports.
Tim Tuffle stays in the game. He pinch ran for Hernandez, and he stays in the game at first base. His normal position is second. And the score 7-2 going to the 7th, James.
And this telecast is presented by authority of Major League Baseball and may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any other form without the express written consent of Major League Baseball. You knew that, didn't you?
Jim Palmer, not affiliated with the Columbia School of Broadcasting after that reading.
I went to the ABC School of Broadcasting. 8 years in the booth with Mr. Cosell.
Want to know the count on Thompson. And you survived, didn't you?
So far. So far.
Foul back. The count is 1-1. Aguilera in relief of Ron Darling, who didn't have it. So Darling, unless the Mets can mount a dramatic comeback, will suffer his first loss of the season and snap his winning streak at 6. Two and one.
Oh, with a few breaks, I'm sure Ron would have kept his team in the game a little bit closer. Of course, then again, when you start the season and somebody says, "Are you willing to be on June 1st 6-1?" you go cartwheels across the clubhouse, saying, "Of course." Of course, once you're 6-0, obviously you want to become 7-0, and so on down the road.
Santana gathers it in. One away.
Pretty good idea. Talking about attitude, speed, whatever. As you see Robbie Thompson, routine ground ball to shortstop. You don't see too many players run that hard to first base.
You do if you're a rookie. Last year we talking about the Giants hitting .233. Right now 261 coming into play today. And they have 8 hits in 6 1/3 innings. No team in National League history has gone from last to first from one season to the next. 1-0 the count.
I think the one thing that Roger Craig talked about was that he does have a very balanced roster, very similar to what George Bamberger did back in '82 with the Milwaukee Brewers. You don't go too many days without playing.
Ray Knight will handle it. 2 gone. Bruco coming up, 2 out, the base is empty. We can update you now and let you know how things are proceeding. The Pirates rout the Dodgers for the 2nd day in a row, and Philadelphia makes it 6 straight, winning 16-5 over San Diego. In the 8th inning, St. Louis leads Cincinnati 2-1. The Cubs have won. They beat Atlanta, and Houston still leads Montreal 5-4 in the 7th inning. 1-0 the count. American League. White Sox are a winner at Toronto. Cleveland beats Milwaukee. The Red Sox win over Minnesota, and Kansas City handles Texas 5-3. Out west, California leads Baltimore 2-1 in the 8th. The Yankees and the A's are tied 1-1 in the 3rd. And the Mariners lead the Tigers 1-0 in the 2nd inning at the Kingdome. 2-1 the count. Kansas City and Texas after today's Ranger Royal game now in a flat-footed tie for first place in the American League West with marks of 24 and 24. And if the Angels win and they lead Baltimore in the 8th, they'd be a half a game back. Krukow hits one into left field for a base hit. So a big day for Mike on his way to a victory perhaps with a 5-run lead and 2 hits at the plate.
Well, lifetime batting average over 200. Once again helping himself as we look at Roger Craig.
Dan Gladden 2 for 4. Gladden hitting .273 and takes a strike. 0-1. Giants 7, Mets 2. 7th inning. Mets remain home this week. San Diego comes to town tomorrow night. Giants have an off day tomorrow and resume action Tuesday at Montreal. That's ripped into right center field for a base hit. Krukow around second and on his way to third, and Gladden's going to try to stretch it for 2. The throw is a bit offline and knocked down. Krukow then bluffs coming home and has to retreat to third. So Dan Gladden with a double to right center has his 3rd hit, and the Giants are in double figures with a total of 10 hits.
Well, normally with a 7-2 lead, you just kind of cruise into third base. You know the ball's up the gap, but he's not settling just for third. Takes a look. Says, well, maybe we'll go home. Oh, no.
And After pitching 6 innings and it's close to 90 degrees and humid, that's got to take something out of you.
First, that is something does affect West Coast teams that come to the East. Play out in San Francisco, the humidity is not very high. It is cold. See a lot of pitchers after 5 or 6 innings going to the oxygen, either that or the showers.
Two balls, no strikes to count. 2 out, 2 on. Giants ahead by 5. And now it's 3-0 with Brenly on deck.
Well, what makes this team, the Giants, as successful as they're going to be and have been, is that mainly that Danny Gladden has been doing a much better job this year leading off than he did last year. Perfect example there. We saw him kind of as a contact hitter, not try to muscle up, just kind of hit the ball the other way, keep the inning going.
Ball 4, an intentional pitch to Clark, so that goes into the books as an intentional walk after he had gone 3-0. And now Bob Brenly is the batter. Brenly, one of those not sharing in the fruits of a near victory today, as he is hitless in 4 trips. The count.
Well, Bob hit 19 home runs 22 years ago, and this year leading the National League in walks. Roger Craig was a little bit concerned that he's being too tentative, rather walk than drive in runs. A lot of times there's a fine line. Maybe you just take that pitch that's an inch or 2 above the strike zone and walk instead of hitting a fly ball that brings in a run. So I guess what he is saying, he wants Bob to become a little bit more aggressive.
Half swing, little tapper, fielded by Aguilera, who flips the tuffle, and the inning is over. So the Giants threaten, but can't score. They leave the bases loaded. It's still 7-2 San Fran. We'll be back after this word from your local station.
This is Corey McFerrin in New York. Personal milestone for George Brett in the Rangers-Kansas City game. 8th inning, Casey leads 4-3, and George gets hold of one to center field. This thing is going. His 200th Major League home run. RBI number 1,000 on his career. Casey wins it 5-3. Royals now even with Texas atop the AL West.
It's a lot of milestones for George Brett recently. 2,000 hits, and a couple of more today. And here at Shea Stadium, it is 7-2, the Giants on top as we go to the bottom of the 7th inning. And Rafael Santana leads off against Mike Krukow. Strike. Santana, Hearn, and then Kevin Mitchell has come out into the on-deck circle to bat for Aguilera. Randy Neiman is throwing in the Met bullpen. 2-1.
Always felt that Rafael Santana, especially on this Met club, as fine a defensive shortstop as he is, hitting 165 last year. We talked about he got off to a slow start, was hitting in the low 200s.
Here you can see they were using him regularly early, sparingly for almost a month, and now he's been back in the lineup, even though today he wasn't in the lineup initially. That is gloved on the fly by Clark for the out.
Of course, one of the reasons he did have a bruised thumb and it hurt his back. Of course, the versatility of a lot of the players, and Howard Johnson has played shortstop, has cost him some games at shortstop, though. Their everyday shortstop most likely will be Santana unless he goes into a prolonged slump. Again, the nature of their offensive capabilities is similar to what happened in Baltimore, where when you have the Boog Powells and the Frank Robinsons and the Brooks Robinsons, you can have the luxury of having a good fielding shortstop that you don't need a lot of offense from.
Ed Hearn, boy, wouldn't a call third strike make his day? In the air to left center field, and backing up is Leonard, and he makes the catch on the run. So Hearn gives it a ride.
What a pal you are.
Oh, it's been that kind of a day for a man playing in only his 3rd Major League game. A couple of errors and problems behind the plate, and he's 0 for 3. A look at the U.S. Open Golf Championship next Saturday on ABC Sports with Jack Nicklaus giving us a preview look at the upcoming U.S. Open. Next Saturday, 4:30, and then at 5 o'clock, the Belmont. Final jewel of the Triple Crown.
Are you going to be at the Belmont?
No.
Not even as a casual fan?
I'll be watching them. Kevin Mitchell, pinch hitting, takes outside, ball 1. Mitchell batting for Aguilera, and then we'll see Neiman in the 8th. Giants leading the Mets 7-2. The Giants trying to take 2 out of 3 this weekend. Curve in there. 1-1.
It's an interesting thought. It seems that Krukow is getting a lot more high strike zones. Normally, you don't get that pitch in the National League, but because of the slowness of his curveball, you see right there, the umpire has a better chance to look at it. Throw a fastball in the same situation, he doesn't have as much chance to react, and it's usually a ball. Again, there are some umpires that can be characterized just like ball players. Good field, no hit, so forth. A lot of umpires are breaking ball umpires, and some guys have a little bit higher strike zone.
Mitchell gets under it, lifts a fly ball to left field, and Jeff Leonard comes in, makes the catch to retire the side. 3 up and 3 down, and we go to the 8th inning of Shea. The Giants 7 and the Mets 2. Andy Neiman. 2 weeks ago, Neiman came out of the bullpen at Dodger Stadium and pitched very well and picked up his first major league victory in 4 years. He's had a checkered career. There's a man with a very checkered career right here. And how was your week this week?
Marvelous.
Palmer, who
got to see the Northwest,
sells merchandise at the drop of a hat. What'd you do? You won a photo game?
Seattle, San Francisco.
For Jockey?
Yes.
So that's how Palmer's keeping busy, folks. Man is retired. For good, right?
Is that, yeah. Actually, I'm going to throw batting practice for the first time in 2 years.
When?
Tuesday.
And then you're going to be officially inducted into the Orioles Hall of Fame.
Then I'm going to be officially retired.
You and Ken Singleton are going in a couple of weeks, right?
We go a week from Saturday, but there's a luncheon to raise money for the John Hopkins Children's Center and cystic fibrosis on Wednesday that we will be at. Hopefully some other people will show up, even though I wouldn't mind having lunch with Kenny by myself.
Singleton's in broadcasting too as Leonard hits it in the air to center field, and it's Dykstra racing over to make the catch. Going away. Kenny and Tom Hutton are part of what they call the Sports Network, TSN, which is
I think he does about 40 games up.
Sort of like a Canadian.
Yeah, last year I think it was primarily going to be a lot of the Toronto games, but also is doing Montreal games. In fact, Montreal, the only team that's, they're about 7 back in the loss column behind the Mets, but somewhat keeping pace. At least better than most of the other clubs in the National League East.
1 out, base is empty, and Chili Davis is at the plate.
Last year, yeah, Chili hit 13 home runs, 12 batting left-handed, 1 from the right side. It's not one of his better years. Broke his collarbone falling down a dugout step in Cincinnati, or dislocated it.
He's had a good series here this weekend. He's 5 for 10, and he's 0 for 1 today, but he's walked twice and hit a sacrifice fly. 286.
6 for 10 lifetime off Dwight Gooden. He says, I just get up for the good pitchers. No, he said he just has a tendency to not make bad pitches, but from the left side, and that's the way he faces Gooden. Gooden has been throwing a lot of curveballs and fastballs that end up in the middle of the plate around the knees, which is a pitch he likes.
That's a chopper, and it's short hop nicely by Knight. Throws and gets it.
That's a perfect example of the improvement of the Mets defense. Last year, Howard Johnson, very slow start with the bat, great defensively. Now they have a guy hitting well over 330. Makes a tough play look easy. Strong throw to to get Chili Davis. You were with us earlier. You saw the 2-run home run.
Quinones takes a strike.
And the job that Randy Neiman at 6'5", about 215 pounds, you think he'd throw the ball right through the backstop, but the ball just kind of runs and moves like a lot of left-handed fastballs. A little bit of a breaking ball. We saw him in Los Angeles. He was constantly ahead of the hitters. And he throws a couple of different speed fastballs. So it's real tough to time him. Those kind of easy wind-ups, a lot of leg, hides the ball well, and all of a sudden you made a nice routine ground ball to one of your infielders.
Santana throws to first, and Tuffle comes off the bag to make the catch and sweep tag him. Not a bad play for the second baseman turned first baseman, at least temporarily. He's learned from Keith. 7-2 Giants going to the bottom of the 8th.
A special look at the U.S. Open Golf Championship, Saturday.
Hot day at Shea, but not much to cheer about for this crowd of 49 paid and a total of over 50,000 in the facility. Cooling off a little bit in the mid-80s now as Dykstra starts the bottom of the 8th by hitting it sharply right to Robbie Thompson for the out. One away. Krukow, who ran the bases like Carl Lewis in the top of the 7th inning, showed no ill effects in the bottom of the 7th. Got the 3 men he faced. And retires the first man on 1 pitcher in the bottom of the 8th inning. Here's Backman.
That was not a particularly good pitch, but again, some people have said it's better to be lucky than good. He threw a strike, which is what you want to do when you're ahead 7-2. Dykstra hit it right on the nose, right at Robbie Thompson, and Neiman a good pitch.
1 ball, 1 strike to count. Giants took the early lead and have never been headed. They got a run in the first on Danny Heath's error. Gladden singled in 2 runs in the second. A Hearn error. And a run-scoring single by Leonard with a sacrifice fly by Davis. Added 2 more in the 5th. 6th inning. A couple of infield hits and then 2 more errors. Netted 2 more for the Giants. Day in which the Mets have committed 5 errors. And then Ray Knight hit a 2-run homer in the bottom of the 6th inning with the only New York scoring. 7-2 San Francisco.
I think if you're going to generalize, if you give a pitcher a big lead and does not have a track record of throwing a lot of strikes, sometimes starts aiming the ball, loses his concentration. But when you take a guy like Mike Krukow here, who has an exceptional record of being able to get the ball over home plate.
Into the hole and through for a base hit for Backman.
He really doesn't change his pitching pattern. There he just got a curveball up a little bit. Wally Backman, who has been extremely hot from the left side, just pinged it into right field.
Tim Tuffle now comes up. He took over for Hernandez, who was 2 for 3 today. Funny, Keith 2 for 3, and that's when you take a look at a box score, you have no idea how you get to 2. He had a broken bat single in the 4th, and then the little cue shot spinning infield hit in the 6th. That's ripped into left field for a base hit, and down the line around second and on his way into third as the throw comes back towards second, and Thompson is late with the tag on Tuffle for a double. So Backman goes to third. Tuffle doubles to left. Berenguer and Davis are in the bullpen, and Craig is looking in that direction.
One of those plays where, even though you're down by 5 runs, somewhat of a gamble. If that throws on the line, Tim Tuffle's out at second base. A little bit to the infield side. Also shows that Mike Krukow is human. Final fastball. Belled high inside half. Tim Tuffle, excellent fastball hitter, just jumped on it.
And also human is Mike Krukow, who on a hot and humid day goes to the mound. He has the lefty Davis, and Robinson now is the right-hander. Berenguer had been up. And Craig's going to take the ball from Krukow and go to his bullpen. And with Knight coming up, the call goes out for Robinson. So Mike Krukow stands to win it on the verge of victory number 7. He leads with the Giants ahead 7-2.
The leg of our Triple Crown coverage. Live, it's the Belmont Stakes Saturday.
Jeff Robinson comes out of the San Francisco bullpen, and Berenguer and Davis are still throwing behind him in the bottom of the 8th inning. The Giants are on top by a score of 7-2. But the Mets, threatening with 1 out, have Wally Backman at third base and Tim Teufel at second. Robinson, averaging better than a strikeout per inning, has spanned 35 in 32 1/3 innings of work. And he's the kind of pitcher who can be used in middle, long, and short relief. And he comes in late here. In fact, I'd asked Roger Craig before the game who his long man was, and it was Robinson. Baltimore, New York, and Boston at Milwaukee are our 2 games, so check your local listings for the game next Sunday.
Well, they primarily used him as a starter last year. In fact, gave up a lot more hits than per inning. But that's a little bit different. If you're familiar with baseball at all, a lot of pitchers will give up a lot of hits if they're starters, because when you get the second, third time around, and you're predominantly a 2-pitch pitcher, they time your fastball or your slider or whatever. Apparently Jeff Robinson has come up with a split-fingered fastball. Again, the guru of that is his manager, so maybe that is why he's been so effective. But he has an overpowering fastball, good hard slider, and when you come in this situation, you might look at it, I guess, philosophically a little bit different than you do if you're starting. You're just coming in, you know, you only have a few more outs to get. You're going to throw as hard as you can.
And he throws that one to the backstop, and it's 7-3 as Beckman scores.
Well, this will go as a wild pitch, but the ball could have been caught. Much of a shift at all by Bob Brenly. That's why they teach a lot of catchers to try to get in front of a ball like that, but Bob unable to backhand it. So it's 1 out. You have a run in to the infield back, fly ball, a grounder to most likely second or short. It's going to score another run.
Teufel at third, half swing strike, and the count is 1-1. 7-3. 1 out in the bottom of the 8th inning. What looked like a cakewalk for the Giants is getting a little tense. One thing at least the Giants know right now is Hernandez is out of the game. Foster's out of the game. Strawberry is hurt.
Apparently, Strawberry could play against right-handed pitching. But then again, if it's in a situation when he pinch hits, no doubt Roger Craig, if he has a left hand available, will bring in the left-hander. That pitch we saw right there was the split-fingered fastball that Roger Craig has taught Jeff Robinson. There's another one. You notice how that ball has very similar to velocity to a fastball, except it goes straight down. And it's legal. It's the same characteristics as Gaylord Perry's spitball, except that was an illegal pitch. All you do is hold the ball with the seams and kind of spread your fingers as wide as you can. Kind of push up with your thumb, and the ball kind of comes out with a rotation that makes the ball go down.
Full count. On deck is Mookie Wilson. So So it's 3-2 on Ray Knight with 1 out in the bottom of the 8th inning, and the Giants leading by a score of 7-3.
It's an interesting situation because you have a young pitcher on the mound that really has never been used in short relief, and the last thing he wants to do, or his manager wants him to do, is put another runner on. If he does get on him, you want to have him swing the bat. You want to try to throw a strike here.
And he strikes him out. Ray Knight foul tips it, and it's held by Brenly, and down he goes. And a big, big strikeout for Robinson.
Big split-fingered fastball. He's looking fastball. It looks like one. Look, that ball drop. Wonder for all those years that Bruce Sutter could be effective.
Now Mookie Wilson,
which you call deceiving the hitter.
Wilson, a switch hitter, hits a bouncer to second, and Thompson throws him out. So Robinson comes out of the bullpen, throws a wild pitch, but then gets Knight and Wilson, and the Mets settle for 1. So we go to the 9th. Giants 7, Mets 3. 9th inning. That's how Palmer gets to the airport tonight.
That 2-door car.
That's right. Yeah, you're used to it. Why not?
Yeah, exactly.
7-3 San Francisco as we go to the 9th inning.
I traded in my hatchback because it had one too many doors.
Robbie Thompson 0 for 3 plus a walk. Spins it foul off to the right, and the count is 0-1. When the Mets come up in the bottom of the 9th inning, they are due to send up Heap, Santana, and Hearn. 6, 7, and 8. They're down by 4. Giants on top 7-3, trying to hang on for their second weekend win in the 3-game series here. 1-1. Pirates win, Phillies win big, and the Cardinals have beaten the Reds 2-1. Cubs are a winner, and so is Houston. 8-4 over Montreal. That's down to Tuffle. 3 unassisted, 1 gone here in the 9th inning. Uribe is the batter. If the Giants win, Houston has won, Atlanta has lost, and so the Giants will be moving into second place with a victory. Atlanta would drop 3.5 games behind. Strike.
Also interesting to note that I think last year, they draw 818,000 at home. 25 days this year, they've almost drawn 500,000. So along with better play on the field, which is usually what it takes to increase your attendance, it's obvious that the fans in San Francisco, and I was up there yesterday for Jockey, they are elated with the start the Giants have.
That's grounded down to second, and Backlund throws to Tuffle for the out. 2 away. Neiman has retired 5 in a row. Neiman very quietly has been pitching extremely effectively for the Mets. When you think about their bullpen, naturally it's Orozco and McDowell, and now they've got Sisk back as well. But they've been using Neiman, and Randy has not been scored upon in his last 10 relief outings. Today is number 11. Robinson is the batter.
Well, he's a guy they can bring in kind of late middle relief or in long relief like we saw out of Dodger Stadium, and not overpowering but throws strikes. You can very effective against left-handed hitters, but most of the time that's when he uses his slider. But he can be a setup man for another setup man, Roger McDowell.
Robinson popping it up, and it's Santana calling for it and making the catch. So Neiman comes in and sets down the 6 men he faces. And Robinson will go to work on the mound with the Mets coming up on the bottom of the 9th and the Giants on top 7-3. We'll be back after this message and a word for your local station. Alan Roth helping us up in the booth. Steve Hurt providing the graphics for us as we go to the bottom of the 9th inning at Shea Stadium in New York. Al Michaels, Jim Palmer with you. 7-3, the Giants on top. And Jeff Robinson trying to wrap it up for Mike Krukow, who went 7 1/3. And he starts by facing Danny Heath in the bottom of the 9th inning. Heath hitting .281. 1-0 the count. Heath to be followed by Santana, and then Hearn due up 3rd in the inning. Mets have already used Foster and Mitchell as pinch hitters, and Tuffle has come off the bench and is in the game. One man who is available is that man, Gary Carter.
Well, he had about 7 straight balls out in BP today, and then was kind of kidding Davey Johnson. You're sure you don't want to change the lineup?
Meanwhile, Robinson doing exactly what he does not want to do with a 4-run lead, and that is come close to walking somebody. But he's 3-0 here.
And he knows that Danny Heath is not going to be swinging. Most likely until you get to 2 strikes. Which is one of the more difficult mental things to overcome.
Meanwhile, that provokes a call to the bullpen, and Greg Minton gets up, and he takes another strike, and the count is 3-2. Center field. Drifting back is Glass. 1 away. So 1 out in the 9th inning. And Rafael Santana is the batter. ABC Sunday Afternoon Baseball brought to you by Steel, the world's largest selling chainsaw when it comes to quality. Steel's the one. By Chevrolet, who invites you to drive today's Chevy, live today's Chevy. By Coors and Coors Light, beers with a difference worth tasting. And by United States Liberty Coins. Keep Liberty in mint condition with United States Liberty Coins. 1 ball, no strikes the count. 1 out. Bases empty in the 9th inning. 2-0. Robinson's going to do it the hard way. 3 balls and no strikes. And so the same pattern he exhibited with Heath. Exactly the same. And the 3-2 pitch is a chopper hit towards short. Takes a wicked hop, and Uribe makes a nice play and throws him out. Jose Uribe. Fine play on the erratic bouncer. 2 down.
Well, they've always had good pitching, as we said. Good pitching is helped by good defense. You call soft hands. Anticipating a high hop. Doesn't get it. Scoops it up. Strong throw to Will Clark at first for the out.
Now Hearn takes inside, ball 1.
Again, playing in San Francisco. Jose Uribe, not a whole lot of press. Good defensive shortstop. Along with Robbie Thompson, has really solidified the middle of the Giants defense. And then when you put Dan Gladden in center fielder, who is a pretty good center fielder, makes it pretty easy to pitch.
And here's Uribe throwing to first to end it. Robinson comes out of the bullpen to do the job. Krukow gets the win. The Giants score early and often. And after losing a heartbreaker in 10 innings on Friday night, come back to beat the Mets 7-3 last night and 7-3 today as well, to take 2 out of 3 and move into second place in the National League Western Division. The Giants, before a full house at Shea, spoil the day for more than 50,000 as they beat New York 7-3, and we'll be back in just a moment. Games in a row. Today the Giants won it. Final score 7-3, and we can remind you that next Sunday more baseball action here on ABC. You'll see either the Yankees hosting the Baltimore Orioles or the Red Sox in Milwaukee. Check your local listings for the game in your area. Travel arrangements made through and a promotional fee paid by United Airlines. United flies more people to Hawaii than any other airline. Nobody knows Hawaii like United. This has been a presentation of ABC Sports, recognized around the world as the leader in sports television.